Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining the Tahoe Regional Young Professionals, or TRIP, in our candidate interview series. We'll be chatting with each of the South Lake Tahoe City Council candidates and sharing the video footage with you in the effort to engage the community so you can make informed decisions at the upcoming November 4th election. We want to take a moment to let you know that TRIP is an independent organization, and although we do get involved with community issues, especially local politics, that we are here to make every effort to deliver unbiased, timely information. I'm Jenna Palacio. I'm here with Austin Sass, and we have a lot to discuss today, so let's dive in.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. As I'm sure you know, the Tahoe Regional Young Professionals represents a generation that want to make their future here in South Lake Tahoe. How do you plan to help your constituents who are trying to follow their careers and raise a family here?
Well, thanks for sending me this question in advance, so I've prepared some notes. I'd like to break it into three categories. The first is career, because people are moving here and they need to make a living. So one of the things I would propose to do is really work on economic development on the South Shore. And I think the best way to do that is to create a South Shore vision plan, something that currently doesn't exist. I would like to take the elected officials from Douglas, El Dorado, and the city of South Lake Tahoe, sit down with the business community and the environmental community, and truly paint a picture for the future of where we're trying to take the entire South Shore. People that want to invest need predictability. They need to know that there's going to be return on investment on the money they're going to put into real estate or to renovating something. And right now we don't have that. So I think we can create more jobs if we have a South Shore vision plan. So that's the first thing. The second thing is for those people that have come here and elected to work from home because they have skills as either a software engineer or a consultant, I think we need to work on expanding our broadband coverage. We need high-speed connectivity so that people at home can get work done in an efficient manner and be competitive with places like San Francisco or Los Angeles. The third thing is, for career, we need to have more continuing education. So I support what Lake Tahoe Community College wants to do, and I hope that through the bond efforts, they'll be able to provide more educational programs to those people that live and work here. The second thing is quality of life, and I'll start with recreation. I think the city needs to have more connectivity in its bike trails. I think we need to fix up the recreation center, and I think we need to have more fields so that we can have more events here and more activities for locals. Again, why come to Lake Tahoe if you're not here for the quality of the life? And recreation is what most of us here. The second thing on quality of life is environment. I would like to see us create a protect and respect message that went lake-wide, so that when people come into the Lake Tahoe Basin, they know that this is a special place, that they need to protect it, and they need to respect it. And I think we can do that through messaging at all of our lodging properties, at entry points into all of the basin, and I would love to see the entire lake work together to do that. That will ensure that the environment does stay protected and it is respected, which is very, very important for anyone that has moved here. You don't want to move to a clean, pristine place and all of a sudden you're looking at trash all over the place, or you're looking at our beaches, dirty and in terrible shape. The third thing would be family. And I think with family, if you're going to move here and you're going to raise a family here, the most important thing obviously is schools. So I think the city of South Lake Tahoe needs to use best efforts to work collaboratively with the Lake Tahoe Unified School District so that our grammar, middle, and high schools are the best they could possibly be. The second thing under family is events and programs. All young children need recreation. They need places to go be able to learn to swim, to ice skate, to stand up paddle, to ride their bike. And so we need to have programs that cater to young children. We also need to have more family fun events. So Lakeview Commons, for example, it needs to be more family oriented. We need to support things like TAP, the Tahoe Arts Project. And so the city can play a real proactive role in doing that, because if kids grow up and they have places to go and things to keep them busy, that's awesome, especially in a community like ours where there aren't really true neighborhoods. If you drive around our city and go outside, you will very rarely see kids playing together out in the street or in the front yard of somebody's house. That's because we're so spread out and we have so many vacation home rentals that we don't have many true neighborhoods. So therefore, these activities are that much more important. And finally, for family, the last thing would be safety. Personally, I think we need more police in the city of South Lake Tahoe. We do have a gang issue. We do have some drug issues around this town. And right now, on any given day, there may be 5 to 7 police officers working, and that's because of the budget cuts. The second thing is code enforcement for safety. Again, places like the beach where people are waking up in the morning and finding people sleeping on the beach, where dogs are running without leashes on them, even though the sign says that there's a leash law right there. And then our vacation home rentals. We don't need to be living next door to a rental that has 20 kids in there celebrating someone's 21st birthday, being loud and noisy and throwing trash all over the place. Not something I want my children to see. So I would expect it's not something that people raising a family want to see. And then the last thing under safety is snow removal. We need to make sure that the fleet and the staff in the city of South Lake Tahoe have the best tools available to them, and we have the best people available to clean the streets. Because as you know, in the wintertime, you can't go anywhere unless the streets are cleaned. So those are the things that I would say we need to take care of to attract more young families to come here and allow people to be able to prosper here.
Yeah, you touched down on something that you know, I'm interested in learning more about how City Council can take a bigger role on, or maybe what is their role, and that's code enforcement. You know, you talk about you know, vacation rentals that are in violation. Certainly, there are you know, certain motel properties along Highway 50 that are clearly in violation. Is it City Council's mandate to shore up code enforcement?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, code enforcement falls under the police department. Police department reports to the city manager reports to the city council. And right now, when you have 2 people on code enforcement and they work until 7 o'clock at night and they don't work on the weekends when all the people are here, that's an issue. So, you know, if there's trash out at 7 o'clock in the morning on trash pickup day and code enforcement is not working, how are we going to be able to cite those properties that don't comply? At 2 in the morning, if my neighbor decides to turn on the stereo and jump in the hot tub, waking my kids up, waking me up, that's certainly a city council issue. So yes, absolutely. We need to provide more funding so they can hire more people. And I think that changes the culture in this town. Okay, we need to get people that come here to understand that you're in a special place, you're in the mountains. We love our peace and quiet late at night. We love to leave our windows open to get the cool, crisp air coming in. I shouldn't have to close my windows because somebody next door is in a hot tub with 20 other people making tons of noise. That's not why I live here. I don't want to live in a fraternity house. And so I want my peace and quiet. I love the mountain life. And when people come to Tahoe, they want to be like us. They don't want to be like they are in San Francisco. They want to be like us. So code enforcement, absolutely.
Understood. Let's see here. So South Lake Tahoe's voter record was at an all-time low in the last election, as I'm sure you saw. As a candidate, how do you view voter apathy in our town, and why is this election so important for voters to participate?
Well, I think voter apathy is rampant across the entire United States. Turnout is very, very poor relative to the number of people that can and should vote. We here in the city of South Lake Tahoe have the worst turner vote out in all of El Dorado County. Some of it has to do with the fact that we're very transient. There's a lot of people that come here and they stay a couple of years and then they move on, so they never really get a chance to be involved in local politics. And I think the other thing is that there's just a lack of respect for the prior city councils, and people sort of go, what's the difference? Well, why should I vote? Why is this election more important than the others? It's always important. They're all important. And I wish that we had 500 people showing up to our voter forums. I wish there was a ton of people reaching out to the candidates every day and asking questions. I think the way we get the voters more interested is to present a clear, concise message with transparency, and we need to earn back their respect. We need them to look at city council and believe that when they come to a city council meeting that they're going to be listened to and that the electeds have not already made up their mind.
Yeah, it seems like there's some big issues coming up that this, you know, the 3 candidates that make it into from this election are going to be faced with, and we want to make sure everybody gets informed, and
Absolutely.
And there's going to be a lot on the table.
Absolutely.
Coming up here. Let's see here. So, South Lake Tahoe's unemployment rate, it's slowly improving, which we love, but how can City Council address the town's underemployment? How can we bring more career opportunities to local professionals with the right experience and skill set?
Well, the reality is that this town is primarily a hospitality town. It thrives off of tourism. So the way that you get more jobs in the tourism industry is to make sure that the properties are out there that are flourishing. And you take a look at the weekly rentals that are out there in motels, they're dragging down the rates. You take a look at the monthly rentals, they're dragging down the rates. You take a look at what the casinos are doing. You know, you have $29 to $49 midweek rate at all of the large casinos. So what kind of pressure does that put on the motels and the hotels on the South Lake Tahoe side? So the other thing that you can do, again, is the economic development. You know, I hope within the next 5 years that the hole in the ground is filled up and that there's jobs over there. That comes about with the city, again, getting back to this South Shore vision plan for where we want this town to go. Again, we need predictability. Where are we going to go? And unless the elected sit down and agree to share their vision for where we want to go, and they're willing to compromise, we will continue to be exactly where we are right now, which is where you have the perception that there's a war going on between the two states, that there's a war going on between the two chambers. So we need leadership to sit down and start working on that.
I mean, you raise a really good point. You know, having a state line going down, you know, one end of town, it can definitely create this divisive, you know, mindset. You know, but some people just don't really understand that there's this divide going on at all. I mean, should we accept that divisive mindset, or should, you know, what do you think the mandate should be moving forward?
Well, absolutely, we shouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
But our elected officials over the past, I've been here since 1976, it really hasn't changed. And the electeds need to sit down, get to know each other, respect each other, and start working with each other. You and I can have a conversation, and we'll keep it pretty topical, but if you and I have spent some time getting to know each other and we respect each other and trust each other, then maybe the conversation changes and it's sort of like, you know, Jenna, I've got a real problem with X. And you go, yeah, I've got a problem with that too, but we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, so now we know each other. Let's be honest with each other. What really is your sticking point on this issue? Okay, now I tell you what mine is. Now we agree that we need to meet somewhere in the middle, because you're not going to get your way and I'm not going to get my way. So unless we're willing to compromise, we're not going to move forward. The electeds in El Dorado, Douglas, and the city of Lake Tahoe have met once in the last 12 months. That's it, one time. Now I know that the administrative staffs talk on a regular basis, but the electeds set the policy. And so unless it comes from the top down, I don't know how we move forward.
What about, you mentioned vision plans. Isn't there a 2020 vision plan? Has that been adopted by the city,
No,
or could that be?
No, it has not been adopted by the city, and the 2020 vision plan is so broad, there's no specifics in there whatsoever. We're talking about things like developing the state line area. We're talking about things like connectivity between Echo Summit and the city so that we can access recreation. That's El Dorado County and the city of South Lake Tahoe. We're talking about bike paths going around the entire lake. That's multiple jurisdictions getting together. The 2020 vision plan is a great blueprint. It's very broad, and it would be hard to argue with almost anything in the 2020 vision plan because it is so broad and it's just full of common sense. What we need is a concrete business plan about where we want to go, so that if I have $600 million and I want to buy something in the hole in the ground and develop it, that you can tell me, Austin, where is South Lake Tahoe going to be in the next 5 years? Where are we trying to take this place? Because I might want to sell, or I might want to move here, but I need to know that my investment is going to grow and give me a return on investment. And right now, the 2020 vision plan doesn't do that.
Understood. Let's see here. So, coming back to more social issues here in our town, you recently participated in a candidate forum, and at this forum, a question was asked pertaining to engaging the Latino community in local policy making. And this question, or overall the forum as a whole, was publicly referred to as racist following the event. Do you think the event being referred to as racist is an indicator of racial tensions in our town, or maybe a disconnect from our town's ethnic diversity?
I don't think the question was racist at all. You know, as far as it goes with the Hispanic community, my wife works at St. Teresa's Church. The Filipino and the Mexican community are very, very active in that church. I know the leaders of both of those communities. And I see them at the church, and my wife speaks to them in great depth, so I have some awareness. No one in the Hispanic community is complaining about things. They have concerns. They want public transportation, they want bike paths, and they want predictability on their jobs. One of their biggest concerns right now is the fact that how do you get the hours at work? As the motels and the hotels fill up and then go down and our shoulder season is weak, people go from 40 or 50 hours a week down to 10 to 20 hours a week. That's a big strain on their pocketbooks. The other thing they're concerned about is low-income housing. Okay, you have a lot of people living, too many people maybe, in one apartment because we don't have a lot of low-income housing. Personally, I'd love to see some of the old motels and hotels renovated so that they do have low-income housing, and I think we can provide a better quality of life.
So coming back to the talk about the state line area, if the Highway 50 revitalization plan or Loop Road project is approved to move forward, how would you work with your other council members to implement it and then also address some of the problems such as displaced residents?
Well, first of all, there is no Loop Road plan. Okay, there's an idea of having a Loop Road. There is no plan and there is no funding. So if I had a vote today, I couldn't vote for the plan because the plan doesn't exist and the funding is not there. We can talk all we want about how nice it would be to have a walkable area where Highway 50 is down to 3 lanes, where we could close it off for events, and we can get some of the vibe that you may see in Steamboat or Aspen or Vail or Whistler. All that sounds great, but it hinges on a lot of different things: an environmental review, an economic review, funding, a plan to buy out all the people that own homes and have properties there. And also high on the list is, not one of the businesses on Highway 50 has committed to doing anything with the additional space they may pick up. So if you get this extra sidewalk space, I haven't heard Caesars Entertainment come forward and say, wow, if you guys do this, we'll put shops and restaurants out in the street so it's really cool to go up and down. The Loop Road, when it was launched 2 years ago by the Tahoe Transportation District, was like someone taking a bomb and throwing it into the middle of community, blowing everybody up with nothing behind it. It's an idea, that's all it is. When someone comes forward with a concrete plan and funding for what they are doing off the Loop Road, then I think the city and its residents will be prepared to talk about it. Because right now, most people in the community don't want to hear anything about it because there's nothing to really talk about.
What about the, I think there's 3 different
routes?
Schematics. What about what's been released on those?
It's just ideas, that's all it is. You know, if you want to take a road and run it through a neighborhood, which means you need to buy people out,
right,
why even talk about it if you don't have the money? Now you've basically put a lien on everybody's property that said, I don't know what your property's worth. I mean, you just devalued my property by saying you're going to put a road through here, but you haven't even told me whether you're going to buy me out or how you're going to buy me out or when you're going to buy me out. So that wasn't fair. They never should have done that. And as far as what is the best route, when there's an environmental study and an economic study and a plan to buy people out, I'll be able to tell you what I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concerns about what they have put forward with. It's a very heated topic in our community. Any thoughts on addressing some of those concerns that are generated by the proposal, such as displaced residents?
Yeah, I would tell the Tahoe Transportation District to go back to the drawing board, and when you're ready to release a complete plan, then come forward and let's have a discussion about it. As far as the people that may be displaced, I hope nobody gets displaced. I hope they can make an offer that everybody is happy taking if we ever get to that point. If we get to the point where there's one property out of 100 that decides that they don't want to sell and they want some exorbitant price, sort of the last man standing situation, then it will come forward in front of the city council. They'll have to revise the prior vote they had, which was no eminent domain to be used, which means you'll have to have 4 out of 5 council members that would agree to overturn it. So we're a long way for anything like that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, sounds like there's still a lot to be worked out
Oh,
there
there's a
too.
ton. There's a ton to be worked out.
Yeah.
It was crazy for this to be thrown into the community, and it was unfair.
Well, what about the South Lake Tahoe Airport? What would your decision-making process be like for its redevelopment?
I think the airport pretty much is what it is. If we get any federal grant money and we can make any improvements to the runway or the tower, that's great. But I don't think we're going to get commercial air service coming back in here. The road construction to Reno is going to reduce the commute down to 50 minutes. That's nothing from people flying in out of town. And we've had a lot of commercial service here over the years, and no one has been able to make it go. So I would rather see the city use their resources in other places. It's a nice airport for emergencies. It's a nice airport for private jets to fly into, but I just don't visualize any commercial service coming anytime soon.
As far as other redevelopment opportunities, I mean, how would you prioritize? Currently there's a redevelopment plan that's in the works that'll be presented soon to the community for community input. As a member of City Council, how would you, weigh in on the decision-making process about what would be best for that property?
Well, you listen. That's the first thing you do, is you need to listen to the residents. You need to figure out what they want and what they don't want. As far as redevelopment, I mean, specifically, which area are we talking about? Because, we have a Y plan that we're looking at. We're looking at doing other things to Harrison Avenue. We got the 56-acre project. We got the state line redevelopment if, the routing of Highway 50 does change. So which one do you want to talk about?
It was specifically the South Lake Tahoe Airport, but we want to talk about all of it, and and all these issues, again, make it an important election to weigh in on and for people to vote.
Well, I would love to see a couple of things happen to the airport. Number one, I'd like to see our visitor center move to the airport. You have ample parking there. It's at the entry into our city, and I think it would be great to have sort of a gateway to South Shore welcome center, so everyone coming off of Echo Summit or coming through Kirkwood will be able to roll right in, get all of their information, maybe have some maps that show the terrain in the area, where the hiking trails are, where the biking trails are, have a concierge like we have now at the visitor center to give information. The other thing is, I think you can use some of the land in the airport to attract some research and development companies here. So I would love to see somebody say, okay, I produce, or I want to manufacture high altitude, whatever, clothing, equipment, and have a great testing center here. I don't think we'll ever have a full-fledged assembly plant here unless it's something that is not harmful to the public. But I think what a great place to use that land for something like that. And here's another idea someone threw out to me. Why not put low-income housing out there? Someone said, you could put a 6 or 7 story apartment building out there, and that would become a great place for people to be able to live. So those are some things we could look at.
Do you think that there's a low-income housing issue here in South Lake Tahoe?
Oh, absolutely. And we just talked about the Hispanic community and talk to them. They'll tell you absolutely there is. There's not a lot of options. And when you look at these monthly and weekly rentals, they are one spark away from going up in flames. Those structures were built in the 1950s, and when you go into one of those units now, you have a hairdryer, you have a microwave, you have a coffee maker, you have a hot plate. And I know this because, again, my wife goes over to these properties when she's placing homeless people in them who are in an emergency situation, or, for example, a woman come in and she's been beaten by her husband and need a place to stay. The church helps out and provides assistance for those people to have temporary housing. And when you see what's inside of some of these places, at $29 a night, I don't think it's safe. But we need to have code enforcement go do the inspections, and that means you need to have staff. And will. You have to have the will to do that, too. Can't have your friends owning those places and, take care of them.
Right, certainly. The code enforcement topic, continues to keep being brought up here, and it's certainly something that I think the council will be faced with moving on. Is it just a policing thing? I mean, isn't there a city position that's open right now for code enforcement?
I just spoke to the city manager about code enforcement because, I live in an area that's full of vacation home rentals. I also live in an area where there's a couple of retail establishments that, make noise very, very late at night. And the fact of the matter is that when the code enforcement people go home at 7 o'clock at night, the 5 or 6 police left on staff, their priority is not code enforcement. Their priority is safety. So if you call at 10 o'clock at night and ask for code enforcement to come out, good luck. There is no code enforcement on staff. It's simply a matter of staffing. We need to have the budget so that the city can hire the people to enforce the codes.
What would other, because staffing is also very dependent on revenue.
Sure.
And what are some other alternatives? I mean, what were we looking at, like an anonymous phone line, or?
You can call up anonymously right now. I mean, you can call up and say, I live at the following address, and that's kept anonymous. The police don't reveal that to anybody else. But the fact of the matter is there's no one there to go do it. So, again, at 2 in the morning, they're in the hot tub making noise. The police aren't going to come out to quiet them down when they have other issues going on. And they'll tell you flat out, there's no one in code enforcement right now. So if the policemen are down at the other side where there's a robbery or someone got run over, no one's going to come run up to your house at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell the neighbors to be quiet. The other issue too is if code enforcement comes out into a raucous situation where there's a bunch of drunk people doing something bad, our code enforcement officers don't carry guns. So they're not going to go confront 5, 10, 15 drunken people and get them to quiet down by themselves. They need backup. So again, there has to be a commitment by our city that we want to change the culture of some of our visitors when they come here as it regards the vacation home rentals.
Well, speaking of culture change, I wanted to ask a question regarding the plastic bag ban. You know, recently here in South Lake Tahoe, City Council voted to delay the final phase of our local plastic bag ban. But California has legislation on the table that might pass a statewide plastic bag ban. If that passes, how would you recommend City Council roll it out after the bag ban here in town's recent opposition?
Well, it has to be rolled out from the retailers. I mean, that's where people are going to get the plastic bags for the most part. So we have to have messaging by the retailers, and I think that's where the chamber could really play a role in helping communicate to the business community and getting them on board to support the message. You know, earlier I talked about having a protect and respect type of culture here. I would love for us to be the standard everywhere in the United States for respecting our community and our environment. We have this awesome lake out there that's under severe pressure right now. We have invasive species, we have milfoil, we got animals living in the lake that normally don't live there. We have global warming going on. There's a ton of stuff going on. But wouldn't it be cool if people said, you know, when you drove into Lake Tahoe, this is how we live here, okay? We respect it, and that's what we want you to do.
You mentioned global warming and, you know, climate change. Certainly with our seasonality here, you know, this is something to really consider as we, you know, move forward, especially in creating a vision plan. What do you think the role is of climate change as we shape a vision plan for South Lake Tahoe?
Well, we need to have other options. I mean, you know, in the wintertime, we get about 1 million people coming up there to ski and ride at the 3 South Shore resorts. When there's no snow, they don't come. So lodging occupancy goes down, spend at the retailers goes down, employees don't get their hours. So, you know, one of the things that we've done in the summertime that ensures that people come up here is events, music. So, you know, we should get behind more events, and we should get behind, you know, things that will give people a reason to drive up here. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go down to Apple Hill next week for, you know, the Apple Festival. Well, I go there every year. We have a great time when we come there. Garlic Festival in Gilroy, people go every single year. The Rib Cook-Off down in Reno. We need some events that become annual in nature, and people put it on their calendar and they say, I am going to be in Lake Tahoe the 3rd weekend of September because this is when this event goes on. In the summertime, a lot of the people come up here, they come here to gape at the lake, and they come up here to escape the heat. If you could get 1 million people coming here in the summertime to recreate, which is not necessarily weather dependent, or hiking trails and our biking trails, or rock climbing, or stand-up paddling, the lake's not going away anytime soon. So if we could start to get those people to come up here in the summertime, then we protect ourselves against some of those things.
That's good. And that kind of leads me to my next question here. You know, when you close your eyes and envision South Lake Tahoe in 5 years, what do you see?
Well, you know, that question was an interesting one because I had to be very, very realistic with it, and understanding our city's economics and understanding how long it takes things to get done here. Rather than tell you what I would love to see, I thought maybe I'd tell you what I think you're going to see. So it's not this pie in the sky picture that I'm going to paint because I have to be realistic. So some of the things I came up with, I think we'll see a bike system within 5 years. I think we will see a trail system. I think that's very, very doable. And again, the caveat is with the right leadership, because the current leadership is not really getting that done. The second thing is I think we'll have rec center improvements and possibly the flushing out of the 56-acre project. I see development at the hole in the ground. I think maybe 5 years from now we'll see construction there and we'll see somebody involved. I think there'll be more awareness by the city with regard to the environment, and hopefully that culture of protect and respect. I think that messaging can be delivered fairly easily if our leaders are willing to work together to do that. I think we'll see a citizenry who will have more respect for the current leadership. I really do. I think we'll see more collaboration between the city, the counties, the business community, and environmental groups. And finally, I think we'll see a better economy.
Well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this interview up. Thank you so much, Austin. It's been great speaking with you.
All right.
And we want to thank you all for watching. Again, remember, this is for you. Please register to vote. Tell your friends, your family, your coworkers to register as well. And let your voices be heard this November 4th election.